Welcome back to Formula for Average. When I just thought that it's gonna be another boring Monaco Grand Prix, it all changed. And 2/3 of the race, I think they were very predictable, and I thought that everything will go as it is, and it's gonna be another Monaco. But there are multiple things which happened that turned it upside down, and let's discuss those, of course. But before we get into discussing the race, very quickly, let's take a look what happened in qualifying. And here are the results of the qualifying, and of course, again, this weekend turned out to be all about Kimi Antonelli. He is establishing himself as, I don't know even how to name him. Is it too soon to call him a world champion? I guess it is too soon, but he's going there. He's doing everything right at the moment. And yes, it's only like the beginning of the season, roughly one third of the race is done. But he, at the moment, he has a great form. You can't deny it. And he was not in the FPs. He was not the shining star. Let's put it that way. It seemed that in FP1, FP2, Ferrari is gonna take it. And honestly, I thought also that Ferrari is gonna be the dominant force of this weekend. It didn't happen so. Antonelli proved himself once again, and it was great to watch, and he just did everything right. I mean, I have no other words just to describe that. He was just purely great in the qualifying, and of course, as we will discuss it later, also in the race. But the first step, the qualifying, the maximum attack mode in those final qualifying laps, it was just spectacular. And then also Max, he proved himself that he can deliver still, even though the car is not that great this year, but still he can deliver. He can be right up there, and yeah, it was a great qualifying lap from Max as well. And then came the Ferraris, and as I said, I thought that Ferrari is going to be the dominant force this weekend. I believe that many people thought that way, but it turned out to be wrong. They were close, as we see, 0.185 from Verstappen, and then 0.72 between the two Ferrari drivers. But still, yeah, quite not enough. Let's put it that way. And I think, it proved how good Kimi and how good Max are actually. Not just in this track, but in this particular case, in this track. And then Hajar, which was, I think it's a good result for him. But Russell was nowhere. Once again, I think Russell's problem at the moment is confidence, in my opinion. He's constantly getting beaten by his younger, much less experienced teammate, and that is just damaging his confidence at the moment. And he can say that yes, he's not thinking about these things, that he just need to do a clean weekend or whatever. But I think in these particular cases, when driver who we know is capable of delivering but cannot deliver, I think it's just purely psychological thing, and Russell is at the moment, he's in a very bad place in that sense, and he has to, I don't know how, find his mojo back or whatever, and deliver, because the car, as you see, its car is capable of delivering that, but driver at the moment is not. and it's almost 4/10 from Antonelli, so it's quite a huge difference. So in that sense, I believe George, he has to find, I don't know, some kind of psychological force or whatever to deliver. He needs a good weekend, which he hasn't had for quite a long time. And then yeah, both McLarens, I think nothing unexpected there. And yeah, Gasly and Lawson finishing up the top 10. I think it's a good and great result for Gasly and for Lawson. So in that sense, everything's good. And then the rest of the field, I would say pretty much also as expected. So with that being said, I think nothing so spectacular out of the qualifying, except that the performance from Antonelli was just great. So with that being said, let's jump into the race itself, and here we have the results, of course, but I don't know how to call it. Regardless of what happened on the track, Antonelli was unstoppable. He was just flying and not making any mistakes. Like, as you see, yes, at the end only 6 seconds, but those 6 seconds are because the last 8 laps were only racing, and we had this standing start and the safety car crash, not safety car crash, but the crash in the safety car, and then the red flag, and the race restart. We'll discuss it later. But so those 6.2 seconds, they were done in 8 laps basically. So even after the, let's say, all the shenanigans and whatever, the interruptions on the race and whatever, Antonelli was unstoppable, and it's just magnificent to see, to be honest. Like, we have to still remember that this is his second year only. Which race is it? Like 24 plus 6? Is it his 30th race or something like that in Formula One? And he has won last 5 races now. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Also in this particular track, Monaco, which is very unforgiving of any kind of mistakes, it was just magic in a way. I don't know what are the words to use. He's just, at the moment, he is the best driver on the grid, and nobody can beat him. Not his teammate, not other more experienced drivers, nobody can beat him. And that's just, the consistency and the maturity he's showing at the moment is just, unbelievable to see that. But other things that I think are worth discussing is, of course, we have to start from the beginning of the race, Verstappen. And this is an unfortunate thing with the Verstappen. As I said, he qualified P2, great qualifying considering everything. And he even said in the interview that, he didn't expect this kind of a result in the qualifying, all good. And then the disaster struck in the start of the race. And just unreliability issue with the car. He could not get it to start, and then he just limped back to the pits, and that's it for him. Very unfortunate thing for Red Bull and for Verstappen himself. But that's what happened. Also very unfortunate if we look at the top drivers for Norris. Again, unreliability issue, second race in a row. Also, he DNF'd in Canada. Now he DNF'd also in Monaco, and these are the issues that these top teams, if we consider them like that, I believe we do. They have to iron them out and see why this is happening and fix that. Because McLaren is not fighting for any kind of championship this year, in my opinion, unless they can do some magical stuff in the second half of the year. But at the moment, they are not. But still, they are the top 4 team. And these kind of unreliability issues, yeah, they are costing them a lot of points at the moment. So they need to get on top of that. If we then go into chronological order, before we go there, there was an interesting thing what happened in this race, and this was already like when the pit stop started, and this was still the boring part of the race. Let's put it that way. Everybody was having these pit stops because this was a one-stop typical race, and everybody was doing pit stops. And then something weird started to happen, which I hadn't seen, to be honest. And as I understand, this is, let's say, I don't know, this has never happened before in a nutshell in Formula One. Many drivers started to receive penalties for speeding in the pit lane. And at the time, it was not that big of an issue. Yes, there was some couple of, and I believe there were 6 in total drivers, including Hamilton, including Russell, who else was there? Gasly, I believe, Colpinto, Piastri, and so on. So at that moment, it didn't seem that big of a deal. But knowing that what happened there and knowing what happened later, actually, when you put these things together, then there's a lot of issues, and I'll try to explain. So these penalties, they were happening. And I thought at the time when I was watching the race, I thought that this is weird, like why this is happening. I've never seen that many speeding penalties. I know that it's in Monaco, the speed limit in the pit lane is reduced to, I believe, 60 kilometers per hour, but still, like, it's like a button the driver pushes and it just limits him. And usually, well, there tend to be sometimes some driver who gets these kind of penalties, but then all of a sudden 6 drivers, and yeah, it was weird. And then later, after the race, I read that FIA is suspecting that there is something, let's say, wrong, or not wrong, but there is some kind of a discrepancy in the measuring of the measurement of this speed limit, because they are measuring the average speed limit in the pit lane. And apparently the line where the, let's say, the limit starts is not, I don't know exactly, is it like not perpendicular to the pit entry or whatever, but it's a little bit, let's say, skewed in a way. And then if the driver takes, let's say, a trajectory which is slightly, let's say, different from normal, then he enters this area, or this limited area, with one wheel sort of sooner than the others, and that sort of triggers the average, how do you call it, average speed limit being exceeded. And as I read, it was 0.1 kilometer per hour to some of those drivers. I don't remember which specifically, but 0.1 kilometer per hour faster than it was allowed. And this might be due to this different trajectory which they take when they, or this racing line when they come into pit lane. And apparently FIA had warned drivers before the race that there could be this issue. Probably in the heat of the moment or whatever, drivers did not remember that. So they took these penalties, which didn't seem that big of a deal at the time because there were the minor penalties, 5 seconds. However, that started to play out very badly because, remember, this was after the first pit stop, and in normal race there shouldn't have been second pit stop, so these 5 seconds would have been just added to the race time at the end of the race. So if you have a gap to the guy behind you more than 5 seconds, you're fine because it doesn't change your position. However, there was second pit stops because, and now we come to the, I think to the crucial part of the race, and this was lap 60 when Stroll crashed. Stroll crashed in the last corner of the lap, and that brought out the safety car. So what happens in the safety car? Of course, many drivers start to take pit stops. And here is the interesting part. First of all, two things. I don't understand at the moment why Ferrari, in specific Leclerc, took the pit stop. I understand Hamilton. He came in first because he was in the second place, so he came in. He had to serve the 5-second penalty and then change his tires. So basically, Leclerc had to wait, and there was no actual need to change his tires, because he could have gained track position by not pitting and overtaking Hamilton. I understand Hamilton's point of view. Yes, that's logical. He took the pit stop because Antonelli took the pit stop. They both put on soft tires, and for whatever chance, if there is a chance, then on the restart, maybe Hamilton could take the fight to Antonelli. So for Hamilton, it was logical. But why Leclerc pitted, I still don't understand. Because he could have, as I said, took the track position, and most likely, let's face it, it's Monaco, so most likely, even he was still on the hards and Hamilton would have been on the new or used softs. Still, I believe that in Monaco, Hamilton would not be able to overtake Leclerc, even though because of the tire advantage. So that's one thing. And okay, that was just weird, or I don't know how you call it, like a decision on Ferrari or on the Leclerc's garage, side of the garage. I don't know why they did it, but okay, fine, they did it. But then comes also Mercedes, and the second driver of Mercedes is Russell. And Russell comes in, and still, there's Antonelli changing his tires. Okay, he comes in, and he has to serve the penalty because he had that penalty from the previous pit stop. Now he comes into the next pit stop, so he has to serve the penalty. However, by serving the penalty, he would lose track position. So I don't know, was it his call? Was it someone else's call? They did not wait, and they did not serve the penalty. And you can see, though, even in the replay, Russell comes in, and then there are some, like this front jackman and the front left guys, they are starting to do the procedure, changing the tires. And on the right hand side, the guys, they are hesitant. They are just like they thought that okay, we are not touching the car because they were serving the penalty. But then all of a sudden they are. So there was confusion in the team as well. And also, in a nutshell, why Russell came into the pits without serving the penalty, thus also basically serving the penalty wrongly, and earned another penalty, which was the drive-through penalty. And then he got, it's a safety car, you remember, everyone is squished together. So let's say taking the penalty, serving the penalty is bad, he's losing time and track position. Not serving the penalty is bad because he gets penalized and has to take another penalty. So in hindsight, I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think that Russell should not have pitted under the safety car, and then later, after the safety car, yes, there were 10 laps at that stage, so 5 seconds he would have dropped back probably, but not as much, because it's just like a 5-second penalty. But then there is a caveat, and that is another safety car which came out, and this was caused by Leclerc. So in the restart, so now we have Antonelli in first, Hamilton in second, and Leclerc in third, and they are restarting after this safety car. And in the last corner, the same place where Stroll crashed, also 6 laps later, Leclerc crashes. And now interesting part also comes, and I still need to understand what was the decision and why that decision was taken. The race was red flagged, which means that everybody now returns to the pits and can basically gets a free pit stop in a sense. They can change tires if they have to, and there's a standing start. And this is the one thing that now Russell, if we look from Russell's point of view, he has wrongly served the penalty. So he has received another drive-through penalty, which now he has sort of already fallen back a little bit. I believe he fell back, or maybe he didn't. No, he was still, I believe, P4, whatever. And now, because of the red flag, he's in the there's start procedure, and during the next 2 laps he has to take the drive-through penalty. And obviously he takes the drive-through penalty, he falls back to the P12 at the end, out of the points completely, and everything is bad. So the circumstances where Russell and the Mercedes put themselves was very, let's say, complicated. The penalty after penalty, and then the safety car and the red flag and everything, that it just played so badly for Russell that whatever he did at that stage cost him a lot of time. Now, let's think back to this, what I mentioned earlier about the 5-second penalty and the inconsistency on the measuring of the average speed. So if at the end of the day it comes down to the point that it was FIA who, let's say, measured it wrongly, this average speed, then all of this serving 5-second penalty, all of these things with the safety car, with the restart of the red flag and everything, with the drive-through penalty and so on, it all would not have happened for Russell. So basically, because of the, let's say, wrongly calculated average speed, he received a penalty which basically started the chain reaction where Russell was unable to do anything right about it. So yeah, it was just a chain of events which led to a very, very disappointing result for Russell. But overall, it was just a mad last 8 laps of Monaco Grand Prix. When, if you remember in the beginning, I said that I thought that this will be another boring Monaco, but then all the events at the end of the race, it just turned everything upside down. And still, Antonelli was untouchable. And I think this is what stands out very much, is that how good Antonelli did and cope with everything that happened around the race. So there was a lot of, as I said, a lot of technicalities, a lot of things in the race, and there were a lot of how to put it, a lot of things that happened because of interesting and different kind of actions and happenings during the race. So yeah, that's interesting. I think another very, let's say, unlucky, I hate the word luck, but person or driver was Gasly, because he was P3, but then he got some penalties, so eventually he got dropped to P7. I know that Alpine has submitted this right of review, so basically they are fighting for him to be reinstated in P3. I don't think personally that's gonna happen, but yeah, Eventually, Gasly ended up P7, which is still a good result. But if you consider that he crossed the line in P3, but then got like, I believe, 2 5-second penalties, so dropped back 10 seconds and basically finished P7. Very disappointing result for him. Good result for Racing Bulls, in my opinion. They also survived through all the different shenanigans what happened on the track, P5, P6 respectively. Good points for them. So I think in that sense it was good. And also Aston Martin secured, is it their first point this year? I think it is. I might be wrong, but yeah, at the end of the day, also got a point because of these different penalties and yeah, different things what happened at the end of the race. So in that sense, I guess good race for them as well. So yeah, that was the race. Very, let's say, mundane until lap 60, and then everything changed. So yeah, eventful at the end, very eventful race. Because of all of this, so let's take a look what happens in the Drivers' Championship. So Kimi Antonelli has still extending his lead, and now Hamilton is P2 and yeah, 66 points behind, and then comes only George Russell because he didn't get any points this weekend. So now he's in the third place with 88 points, and then comes Charles Leclerc, which also did not score this weekend with 75 points, and yeah, then Piastri and Norris respectively with 60 and 58, and for Norris also bad weekend, 0 points, and then comes Verstappen, also 0 points, and then Hajar with 29 points, and I believe he also jumped multiple places now because of this weekend. So in that sense, there are drivers who did very good, and there are drivers who did very bad. I think it's a very, very polarizing Grand Prix point-wise and result-wise. So it was in that sense it was interesting race. So yes. So that's for the drivers, and for the championship, for the constructors, no changes there. Mercedes number 1 with 244, and then comes Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull, and so on. So, and Cadillac was awarded essentially 1 point because Perez finished P10, but then there were some penalties also, so they got stripped of their 1 point. So now they are the only team who has not scored any points this year, because before this race I think it was also Aston Martin who did not score any points, who hadn't scored any points. Now they have. So that's all for this with this weekend. It was, as I said, hectic race when I thought that it will not be, but it turned out to be. So yeah, next weekend we have already a race. So in Barcelona, more traditional racetrack. So we'll see. I believe that Mercedes should be very powerful there. Let's see what the Ferrari and McLarens and Red Bulls can do. But yeah, see you next week. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, and see you in 1 week. Thank you, and bye bye.